So one, I brought on incredible advisors onto Shoppable's advisory board to help open up doors. So for a little bit of context, Shoppable is a three-sided marketplace. So something that is incredibly difficult to do, and a lot of venture capitalists will say, "Oh, it's not possible."
Hi, welcome to another episode of the Hard to Market podcast. I'm your host, Brian Mattocks. With me today, Heather from Shoppable. Welcome.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks so much for having me.
So, can you tell us a little bit about kind of how you got to where you are and what's up with Shoppable?
Yeah. So, oh boy. So I started Shoppable 13 years ago. I'm the founder of the company, and I started it after having a background in tech. I was previously on the founding team of a digital media company and went through the ropes with another entrepreneur first before I went and started my own. But it was had a really great experience learning how to build a startup from scratch, with the serial entrepreneur first. So I went through that experience from the time that company was a PowerPoint, and there were three other people at the company till the point when it was acquired, and everything along those lines. So I would say that was kind of my real life MBA, and then gave me the experience and the confidence to be able to move on from many years in that role to starting Shoppable and building out this business.
So so let's start from the beginning. How did you get your first customer with Shoppable?
So great question. My first customer was our launch partner was the Wall Street Journal, and we were very, very fortunate to be able to have them as our launch partner. In order to secure that partnership, or any great launch partner, we did a couple things that really changed the game for us. So one, I brought on incredible advisors onto Shoppable's advisory board to help open up doors. So for a little bit of context, Shoppable is a three-sided marketplace. So something that is incredibly difficult to do, and a lot of venture capitalists will say, "Oh, it's not possible," but we are. So we had different challenges that came with how do how we needed to onboard retailers and brands so that we had products to sell through our technology. But then we also needed publisher customers that could utilize the technology on their sites to sell it to the end consumer. So anyway, we had the challenge of having to solve both sides of that marketplace, and solved that by building out an incredible advisory board. So one of the advisors we brought on had a very, very extensive background in the publishing space, working with the top publishers in the country. And bringing her on board, she was able to open up doors and help me get meetings and credibility with these top name publishers out of the gate. So we actually almost had another launch partner that also wanted to be our launch partner. They ended up not being able to move forward in as fast as the Wall Street Journal did. But that's really how we were able to first get our foot in the door, was through our advisory network.
So, so you networked your way into your great first client. How are you managing to scale? I mean, are you still using that networking strategy to get to the next level, as it were?
Yeah, the networking strategy has worked really well for us on both sides of the marketplace. So we also used the advisory board to help unlock doors within our first retail partners, so that we had their products to sell within Shoppable's platform. Now, part of what we do too is, and just for context for any listeners, we have shoppable infrastructure technology. So we created the ability to make anything shoppable, from websites, ads, videos, mobile apps, connected TV, you name it. We have the technology that makes it shoppable. So with that, we needed to bring on board retail partners too. So for that initial launch with our first customer, we had been able to secure, I think it was like 8 retailers or so through our network to be able for this initial launch. But then the next strategy was once we had that first customer, they have their own network too, right? So then we unlock their network. So we worked with each of our customers to have them help onboard brand partners to Shoppable system so that they could also sell those products on their website. So they, of course, want to bring on their advertisers, brands that they work closely with, unique brands that, have a little cachet to them, depending upon who the publisher is. So we worked with them, onboarded their preferred brands and retailers. And then there's a network effect. So for each brand or retailer we onboard, let's say, I think around that time is when we started our relationship with Best Buy, for example. 13 years later, we're still working with Best Buy, and, we're able to sell their products through all of our customers today. And any new customer that comes on board, as long as it makes sense to sell Best Buy products, we can then use them. So we created this network effect where both our customers and our partners are building upon each other and helping create the opportunity for more. So what I mean by that too is that we'll just keep using the Wall Street Journal example because I think it's helpful to have one to understand. So with the Wall Street Journal, I think we started with like Neiman Marcus and Saks Fifth Avenue and HarperCollins books and Barnes and Noble and some things like that.
Right.
And then we onboarded Best Buy. And because we onboarded Best Buy, it opens up new categories of customers that we could then work with, because anyone that needs electronics or tech products or anything along those lines, now we suddenly have products that fit them. Whereas before that relationship, we primarily had luxury goods and books, and anyway, so that's was part of our strategy is using, being able to use those partnerships to help we onboard the retailers for them. They get the benefit, of course, of immediately using and being able to sell those products. And then there's also a benefit to Shoppable long-term in growing that network effect and being able to then be relevant and have the right products to expand our customer base too.
Gotcha. So that what was initially kind of a liability for the startup of the business with that 3-sided marketplace has now become an asset, and you're kind of seesawing back and forth between your 2 different sort of avenues, your marketing avenues, to get the kind of leverage to grow. Is that am I capturing that right?
Yeah, exactly. I love how you put that.
Okay. So when it comes time then to find a new publishing platform, it sounds like you're going to have retailers that are going to help you get there a little bit. What does that look like in terms of the how you are training your referral partners to engage, right? So what does that look like? Because I think that for our listeners, one of the hard parts about getting a strong and effective referral network is the amount of training you have to do along the way to teach people how to bring you up in a conversation so they don't commit you to a price that you can't support or a relationship that you're not interested in.
Yeah, that's a great point. One of the things that we've done is created, and we wanted to create a way that we could make this process as smooth as possible for both parties, but also, like you said, avoid having our partners or our customers have to say too much or potentially say the wrong thing.
Exactly.
as you mentioned too, is possible, and then they've misset expectations. So part of what we did was create a co-branded a one sheet or PDF of information that we would provide to our publishing partners and have information. It would also kind of explain what the partnership is and why, why that publisher was referring their advertisers to Shoppable and to my business. So that made that process quite a bit easier because it essentially explained what's the partnership, why should they care, what's in it for them, and then what's the connection back, and what's the a little bit about what's the onboarding look like, and then essentially had the contact information for my team of who the person is that would set up the call, explain the another level deeper of details, and then handle everything from there. And part of it was also we didn't want our customers to feel that lift of onboarding brands and retailers. We wanted to be able to, for them to call their network, but not have to feel like they had to do all of the explaining and the selling, the selling in. So that worked really well for us. So then once we had those conversations, we'd route back to whoever made that introduction, let them know we've now onboarded XYZ brand and they'll be available for you to start using them. Gotcha.
So the one thing that comes up when we talk about things like referral networks as a source for BD is that it's very difficult to get those to be repeatable and reliable in terms of growth. So I don't know kind of how you solve that problem, or if you have additional sort of marketing avenues that you're using to grow. So I'd like to learn a little bit more about that. What are you doing to add that repeatable kind of scalability on demand or business development on demand?
Yeah. So to try to make it more, I think, honestly, it is a challenge. As you said, I think it's a challenge in a lot of cases. And we do see, different challenges depending upon the type of partner. But in particular for the companies that are already using Shoppable's technology, we tried to set up typically quarterly meetings with them and have it as an agenda item within that process. So our customer success team can bring that up as well. And then simultaneously, we have other types of partners that are more channel partners with Shoppable, where they've integrated Shoppable's technology into their platform, and then they're using us to make their ads shoppable, or sorry, not make their ads, make ads shoppable for the advertisers that are running across their platform. And in those cases, those platform partners are regularly onboarding new advertisers. So as their advertisers are coming down the pipe, they're kicking, we have all these Slack channels set up. So they're kicking, messages over to our merchants team so that our merchants team can either confirm, hey, we already had that merchant or brand onboarded, or we don't. Can you make the introduction? Because they're already having the conversation with that company. They want to launch the Shoppable ad, so they can send us the information and make that connection too. So part of it is, I think, from our strategy, just to kind of zoom out for a second, part of it is in, creating that initial alignment, of course. Then it's about making it as easy as possible to have multiple lines of communication and flows for the setup. So I'm, mentioning like the co-branded one sheet that we set up, regular cadence of meetings and touch points where we're staying top of mind, because that's also a place where a lot of partnerships fall off, is they kind of can forget about you, or they just have so many other things that are top of mind. So having that set up, and then ease of communication. For us, we have a lot of external Slack channels set up with partners that make that process, super simple, and make it easier to get in communication with us, and vice versa. And that Slack has been, I would say, over the last 2 years or so, maybe. I feel like time's flying, maybe 3 years. A lot more partners have been using that and connecting in guest channels and things, and that makes a big difference for um, being able to have that communication flow quickly, and then being able to benefit from those referrals.
Yeah. So as a marketing professional, though, you have some challenges though with forecasting at that point, I imagine, right? How are you going to forecast your business growth targets and all that kind of stuff? What are you doing to manage that? And what does that look like?
To forecast our targets based on referrals
Yeah,
specifically?
exactly. Yeah.
Well, for us, it's a little bit different because the advertiser, I should say the retailer side, where we're getting those types of referrals, are not necessarily, they tend to not be directly tied to revenue. They're indirectly tied. So we don't necessarily use that piece. We don't really tie that piece to forecasting per
Oh,
se.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So the as a growth engine, right? You've got your referral network, and that's sounds like you've got a really good sort of open line of communications. When we talk about the other kind of traditional marketing stuff, I imagine that must be weird for your business, given your target market is on the publisher side, probably a very interesting. What is the job title you would market to in that context?
Yeah, so we primarily license the technology to, I would say, publishers and brand manufacturers that do not have a direct to consumer business. So, job title wise, in the within the publishing space, it can be, an innovation title. It can be in the more recent years, there have been people that have e-commerce titles now, or sometimes it's an affiliate marketing title, things along those lines. In some cases, there's kind of a um, head of platform or things like that are
Mm,
that tend to be also titles that we're working with. And then on the consumer packaged goods side, sometimes it's a center of excellence. Again, innovation. Lots of marketing titles, CMO, director of
yeah,
marketing, those types.
gotcha.
Sometimes brand managers too.
So I think we kind of have a good segue here when we talk about job titles. So who should reach out to you, and how can they learn more about how to get engaged with Shoppable?
Yeah, so to getting engaged with Shoppable, I would say the best place to find us is about.shoppable.com, or you can just head to shoppable.com. It'll get you there. We are Shoppable's most active on LinkedIn, I would say, if you're looking for more social. And then to find me, I am primarily on Instagram at Heather Marie Udo, and Udo is Udo. And yeah, that's the best place to find me directly.
Perfect. And so as we wrap here, I want to ask kind of the question that I try and ask for everybody. What are the three biggest pickups that you've had in your journey so far? I guess in founding Shoppable and helping it grow.
Can you elaborate on the pickups?
What are the three things that you learned? Your big takeaways that were kind of the pivotal lessons that you've learned?
Yeah, so a lot. I mean, I would say one is just the importance of the early team and making sure that especially your first 6 hires, I would say, are the right people in the role, excellent expertise in each of those key areas. I think that's really going to lay the foundation. A second one is to make sure that you surround yourself with people that have been where you want to go. I think there's so much you can learn for entrepreneurs, even business leaders. There's just so much that we all need to learn. Obviously, we're there's just a lot that we need to learn. So being able to surround yourself with people that have been there ahead of you and can help you kind of avoid common pitfalls and things like that, I would say is incredibly, incredibly important. And then the third one I would say is the importance of focusing on profit and sales. So, a lot of people, especially in more of the tech side of the community, are really so focused on venture capital and raising the next round and things like that. And then you get into tougher times in the economy, and suddenly that dries up real quickly. And people, if you haven't focused on profit, you haven't focused on sales, a lot of companies disappear really quickly. So profit solves all problems. We'll end on that.
I like it. Heather, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate your insight.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.